It's wonderful to be with you again. My name is Reverend Robert Ntefon, and I'm so glad to be with you once again. For tonight, we are going to look at something of interest, something of value. When I say value, it's priceless because it has to do with the up and the coming generation. And we're talking about raising children. It's been quite a while we've not looked at this subject, and we think it's important for us to take a look at this once again. Raising children is very demanding. Raising children is crucial. It's very, very important for us to understand. There are cases where some young women will put to bed and the next moment they begin to cry. Not because they are not happy to have the baby, but because something is common with them. They will simply tell the doctor, I don't know what to do. Because when they started the relationship, nobody told them about what happens or what you do when the baby comes. Some didn't even expect that baby will come. They like babies, but they didn't know what follows having babies. And so we rarely hear in our clubs, rarely hear in our schools, rarely hear even in the churches where most of us gather. So I believe that you're going to learn a lot. You're going to get tips here and there that will help you in raising your children. The number one thing I want for you to know is that children come into this world with their own character. They come, when I say character, with character traits. Their characters are not formed yet. And that brings us to a subject matter that has to do with the human brain. From when a child is developing to up to when the child is about 18 years, the brain just grows exponentially. It's more like an explosion. Grows up to about 115 billion brain cells. But from 18 years, some begin to give up here and there. Some brain cells die, and then there are connections between these brain cells. But I found out that as you are learning new things, learning new ideas, new skills, what is called dendrites, which are like tiny threads that link up one brain cell to the other. And can you imagine 115 billion brain cells? And all of them, as you have new ideas, they get connected. As you have new ideas, they get connected. You are talking about 115 billion multiplied by 115 billion. And that is remarkable. And if you get to understand the different phases of human mind, you know that the things you carry in your conscious mind is too tiny compared to what is hidden in your subconscious. Your subconscious is another phase of your mind. Now, don't ask me if I'm a psychologist. That's not what we're talking about. But I know that there are three different phases of the human mind. And many of us think that all we have is just the conscious mind, which is the one that you use with the five senses. Five senses has to do with the touching, the smelling, the tasting, and all that. Why is it important for us to look at this? You need to know your own child, the makeup of that child. All things being equal, your child has three different phases, but some of them begin to show up and begin to have demands placed on them based on the stage and the different levels of development. Even some adults don't even know. Some know about the conscious mind and the subconscious. Some don't know that there's something called the superconscious mind. I'm not going to look at that today. If you can, and you wish to know more about this, you can visit my website, www.robertntefon.com, and I could share some more with you on that. But know that your child has the potential to have all of these developed. And at that stage when they are babies, in fact, from when the child is breastfeeding, it's looking at the mother, and that is when bonding takes place. The child begins to learn the things that you do. begins to pick your language, begins to understand what you are doing. And that is why many times you don't really sit down to teach your child the language that you use often. That reminds me of a child that was asked, "What is your name?" in the midst of other children. And incidentally, my children were there. So they asked them, "What's your name?" They mentioned their names. And this one said, "My name is Bushmeat." So they said, "Why do you say you are Bushmeat?" He said, "That's what my mom calls me." Now, it's not funny, but I couldn't help laughing. Because why would a child call? I said, for her, she thought it was a nice name. Meanwhile, this is a name the mother calls her when she's upset with her. So to try to tell her, "I'm not happy with what you're doing," she will call her, "You bushmeat." She will use her dialect. So when she was asked, "What's your name?" every other person mentioned their name. Some mentioned their nice names that mother called them. Innocently, she just came out and said, "My mother calls me bushmeat." Now, that is how children learn. And the danger in that is the conscious mind is the one that is feeding the subconscious. A child records every experience, records every incident, records events and things into the subconscious. And as the child is growing up, that is the child that will become an adult. We don't break and say, "Okay, I'm through with childhood. I'm now going to become an adult. I take on a new mind." No. It is that mind that you have, the different phases that will still serve you. Unfortunately, all of us grow up with the mind that we had as children. And many of the softwares that have been programmed into our system are no more serving us, but we still live with them. We make references to how our mothers used to cook, even as married people. A man will quarrel with the wife because she wants to eat the mother's soup and not the wife's soup, and not knowing that the wife was not raised by his own mother. So if you give a default message, if you give twisted messages, if you send the wrong signals to this child, if you teach this child things that will hurt that child and others in the name of you are offended, you are upset, you are not happy, that is what that child will assume. And many times they depend a lot on their subconscious. What do I mean? May not have the ability to develop the conscious mind to be able to decipher what is right, what is wrong, to know what is hot or what is hurting. And it will depend more on the subconscious. And the subconscious mind does not know what is right or wrong. Subconscious mind just accepts the things that you push into it, it accepts it and lives with it. Whether it's wrong or right, if you keep repeating that you are not good, your subconscious mind will work with that. And when you come under pressure, if you're in the midst of others and there's need for you to show up, you are going to operate a lot more with your subconscious mind. Even though in your reasoning, your thinking is